Hola chicos, hola chicas. 5. Today we are going to learn in this video 5 ways to talk about the past in Spanish. 5 easy ways to remember forever for your exams. Let's do it. Vamos. These 5 ways to talk about the past, they're brilliant and they're really easy to follow, but only worked with AR verbs. Now, we are going to use AR verbs in Spanish, verbs that ends in AR. Around 80% of the verbs in Spanish ends in AR, so if you learn this way, it's going to be much better for you. Verbs like tuitear, googlear, whatsappear. And you notice something? Well, 2 things about these verbs. First thing is these verbs are similar to English. Actually, they come from English. So they're called Anglicisms. An Anglicism is basically an English word that's been borrowed by another language, in that case by Spanish. But also, there are what they call neologism. A neologism is actually a new word, a new verb. And normally it's because the technology, years ago there was no internet, so no one actually used googlear, tuitear or whatsappear. So we're going to use these verbs today, and we start with the first way to talk about the past in Spanish. The first way to talk about the past is the easiest way. You basically just need to put one of these handle verbs in Spanish before the AR verb. For example, decidí. Decidí tuitear ayer. O pude. I managed. Pude tuitear ayer. I managed to tweet something yesterday. O tuve la suerte de. Tuve la suerte de tuitear ayer. O intenté. I try. Intenté tuitear ayer. O intenté whatsappear ayer. This way is really easy because you don't need to think in changing anything. You just need to put one of these handle verbs before the AR verb. So, you can actually watch a video, you can find it just below in the description when I talk about these handle verbs in more detail. Is using a verb which is really useful and really used in Spanish. Acabo de. Acabo de. And I'll give you an example. If you type escuchar, is to listen. If you put acabo de before escuchar, acabo de escuchar, I just listen something. So acabo de is really useful when you just done an activity, like 1 hour ago, 30 minutes ago, and so on. For example, acabo de whatsappear. Acabo de tuitear. Acabo de googlear. I just done something. Just put acabo de before the verb ending in AR. Actually, before any verb that can end in ER or IR. Acabo de. I just finished something. Acabo de. Way to talk about the past in Spanish with the AR verbs, you need to think in British Airways. Now, British Airways, when you go to the airport, you can see in the panel, you can see the abbreviation of the company, and it's BA. Now, BA in Spanish, the ending, actually means I used to do something. So the only thing you need to do is remove the R of the verb and just put BA instead. For example, tuiteaba. For example, whatsappeaba. You change the R and you put BA instead. Googlear, googleaba. I used to Google something. Now, a great thing about this is if you add mos to the BA, like
googleábamos,
means that we used to do something. So the mos at the end actually means we. Also, a great thing, BA, the ending, like googleaba, you can use it for another person. For example, your friend. Mi amigo googleaba. O mi amiga googleaba. You just need to put the person who is doing the action, and that means that person used to do something as well. Like your friend used to Google something. So British Airways, BA, just remove the R and put BA instead. I used to do something. Guys, the situation is getting a little bit more complicated now, because now you need to think in removing the AR of the verb. And you need to put E with that little dot at the top, okay? E with a little dot, E. Now, in Spanish this is called the past simple, and probably is the way to talk about the past more widely used. So, escuchar, you remove the AR and you put an E with that dot, escuché. O hablar, to talk, hablé. O chatear, chateé. Googlear, googleé. So just remove the AR and put the E with that dot, and you're talking about the past, probably the normal way to talk about the past in Spanish. But remember, you need to remove the AR and not just the R, okay? Okay, and the last one, guys, is probably the most difficult one, although you definitely should be able to use it. And it's called the present perfect. I know it's called the present, but actually it's a verb that is related or is linked to the past. Anyway, I got another video explaining this present perfect tense in Spanish. Just click underneath and you will find the video when I explain in more detail this present perfect tense. But just in a nutshell, what you need to do is you need to use the E at the beginning, H-E, E, which in this case means I have. And then what you need to do is remove the ending, the AR, and put ado. For example, escuchar, to listen. I have listened. He escuchado. Googlear. He googleado. Tuitear. He tuiteado ayer. WhatsAppear. He whatsappeado ayer. Now this verb is especially useful when you just done an activity no long time ago, not when you were little or last year. It's something that you done maybe last weekend or yesterday, okay? And that is the last one. So let's revise all of them so you can actually use these 5 ways in your writing.
Okay, remember these 5 ways. They are extremely useful with AR verbs, which basically are most of the verbs in Spanish ends in AR verbs. So the first way to use the past in Spanish is just using one of these handle verbs that we just learned this year. Decidí, I decided. Pude, I managed. Intenté, I tried. Tuve la suerte de, I was lucky to. And then use the verb ending AR. The second way to use the past is using acabo de. Acabo de and then the verb. You don't have to change anything. Acabo de means I just done something. So use it when you just done an activity and don't change the AR verb. The third way is I used to in Spanish. Like when you used to do something when you're little, for example. And what you need to do is in British Airways, the BA, you remove the R of the verb and put BA instead. I used to. Number 4 is the simple past. Basically, you need to remove the AR of the verb and put the E with a little dot. Escuché, I listened. And the last one is called the present perfect. What you need to do is you need to put A at the beginning, which means I have, and then the AR, you remove it and you put ado instead. He escuchado, I have listened.